Hello and welcome to another Warcraft 3 audio commentary. This is going to be a 1 versus 1 game. I think it was random versus orc if I remember correctly, but it is going to be an orc versus orc on Secret Valley. And I will tell you right off the bat, if you are a fan of watchtowers, a blade master, and a lot of just sitting around slow strategic gameplay, trying to get some kind of sneaking expansion or stuff like that, this is going to be the replay for you. And if you're not a fan of that kind of playstyle, this is definitely not going to be the replay for you. So if it is, sort of click away and whatnot. But anyway, so that being said, I'm actually going to be doing a tavern build order. I'm going to be getting 2 barracks, massing grunts, and this is going to highlight sort of the importance of scouting. As I'm going to be staying in Tier 1 for quite a long time and not scouting his base for a really long time, I'm going to get into a situation where I'm sort of stuck in terms of what I can do. And so he's going to be going for the Blade Master, the early War Mill, the Watchtowers, hurdy-dur, the really fun stuff. And he is going to be getting a barracks, and he is building his base in such a way where he's going to have, a pretty good spot for his towers. Which, it's just, I find it really cheesy, and it's going to prolong the game just immensely because towers are so cost effective, especially in the early to mid game. Obviously there are tower counters, but it's sort of really awkward trying to attack a base like that and everything. In terms of him building towers, it's really easy for him just to erect 3 towers and just sit there and say, okay, if you want to hit my base, you're going to be in a massive disadvantage, so good luck with that. And it's just a little bit frustrating to me. So certain races can counter it easier than others, and again, not scouting and staying Tier 1 is going to leave me way really far behind in terms of actually getting any kind of counter to that. Now obviously if I go for grunts and demolishers, that would probably be the good thing to do. And having 2 barracks, I could easily do it. But the fact that I'm going to stay Tier 1 for a long time, and I don't really feel like massing demolishers because I'm so far behind in my tech. If I go mass grunts and demolishers and try to push his base, and he goes for wind riders, well, that's going to be game because he's just going to run down my units, and then I'm going to have to get some counter to air units. The alchemist can hit air. And I'm going to creep, both of these fountains pretty easily with an alchemist by luring the dragons away from the healing and creeping them. So I crept those easily. Use the grunts to kill the ground units. Got some good items, got level 3, but now I see the mistake of sort of this, waiting this long to attack and all this. I probably could have pressured him early game fairly easily before he got, at least his 2nd and 3rd tower up. I probably could have put a lot of pressure on him with pillage and grunts and everything, but I decided to creep instead, which left him plenty of time to get these towers, plenty of time to actually get some headhunters, even though his barracks was delayed, and also to get a level 3 Blade Master. So now I'm like, okay, what can I do? If I attack into this base, it's going to be a nightmare. There was only like a little bit of space to attack 1 watchtower. It's going to be, and the fact that I have melee units and a melee hero, I would have been in range of 3 towers and 3 burrows, and if his army is there, there's no way I can win that. So and I can't just run in there and try to attack the peasants. Maybe if I could have got here, but he just town portals and camps like right here or here, and with his ranged army, and he draws me into the towers probably. So now I'm like, okay, what can I do now? I'm behind in the tech. My army's not going to be able to pressure his base, and so my game plan is sort of out the window. Now I have to prepare my base. I have to get some watchtowers and prepare my base for air and air attack. I have to be aware that casters could be an option for him, massing casters. So I have to sort of be prepared to defend against that as well, which that would probably be, at least fighting my army, another very viable option. Bloodlust and Spirit Link and all that, just massing casters probably would be decent. But first and foremost, air units is the worry. Air units can, I can't even hit them with like 90% of my attack my damage units, you know, my grunts. The Alchemist alone is not going to be able to counter mass air units. Now, if I get some Bat Riders to go along with Acid Bomb and everything, and or Wind Riders and or Headhunters, I don't really want to go Wind Riders though, because he can just as easily go for Bat Riders, and you know, and if he does that, you know, it's really whoever can get off the concoction first and all that. I really don't want to leave him any sort of backdoor or chance to luck into a win here. Like, you know, if Bat Rider's sort of a coin flip, you know, who concocts who first and all that. And I really just rather have, you know, like sort of a standard, you know, micro type battle, not like, you know, who sees who first and all that junk. So anyway, that's the situation. I've out-crept him. I'm gonna creep most of the large camps. He's already got this shop. He's gonna get this expansion, and then he's gonna get the smaller sort of camps around the map. So sadly, I didn't really stop him from leveling this Blade Master, which would have been fairly important, but pretty hard to really do. I mean, you know, I can't be everywhere at the same time, and I don't have really a means to slow him down. You know, he can just windwalk and get away from us around. I don't have raiders. I'm going to pick up a Dust of Appearance, but even with that, without Ensnare, without Hex or something like that, Stomp maybe, you know, I don't really have a way to secure that kill typically. So unless he actually decides just to stand and fight like an idiot, so which I don't really, I'm not just going to expect him to do that or anything, and he probably wouldn't. So but anyway, he's going to be roaming around my base being annoying, trying to kill any peons he can. As my base is a little bit cramped to build my tier 2 buildings, I'm actually going to have to, until I clear these trees, I think, maybe can get one building there, but to get a second, you know, to get 2 tier 2 buildings, one of them's going to have to be outside of my base, which is going to leave it vulnerable to his Blade Master, unfortunately. So I'll speed the replay up a touch, and you know, he's creeping this green camp now. He's gonna get a level 4. I'm gonna go creep this red camp, get another good item. I've already got Unholy Aura and Devotion Aura, so pretty solid auras, but especially for sort of a super late game sort of battle and everything. But and even before that, you know, moving around quicker. And I'm gonna pick up Endurance Aura. So I've got 3 really solid combat auras, and again, the Unholy Aura and Endurance Aura are probably the top tier, you know, ultimates, not auras, like with Brilliance Aura being the next one probably. So yeah, I've got some towers. I actually don't have any tier 2 buildings. I'm gonna build a bestiary right here at some point, so I can have access to Bat Riders if I need it. And he is massing Wind Riders. He's got 2 upgrades, 2 attack upgrades, 1 armor upgrade, and the unfortunate thing for him massing Wind Riders, even with full armor upgrades, and even possibly with an armor scroll, with level 3 Acid Bomb, that's going to be -5 armor. So, you know, look at him. He's got 1 armor upgrade. He's got 2 armor. You know, an armor scroll will be 2 more extra armor. But again, that Acid Bomb is going to really help me counter those, especially in terms of like killing them with Bat Rider's Unstable Concoction. You know, that negative armor, if they're clumped together, is going to be devastating for them, because that's really the only counter to Bat Riders is like armor upgrades for Wind Riders. So you know, so he's got to sort of, he needs to be aware of that and probably just not go Wind Riders, because he sort of missed his window for that to really, you know, he could have like pushed my base and sort of established map control and all this, but he decided just to sit them back in his base. So, and he also decided to go into low upkeep and stay there, whereas I went into low upkeep, but I realized, okay, this game is gonna turn into an attrition war. So you look at this, you know, 4,000, 4,100 gold. With low upkeep, you're gonna lose 30% of your income. So 30% of we'll just say 4,000 gold at this gold mine, you know, to get 10%, you just move the decimal place over 1. So 10% is 400 gold. You know, multiply that by 3, that's 12,000 gold difference if he's in low upkeep and I'm in no upkeep. So that's a substantial amount of, you know, that's an expansion and a bunch of towers and some units even. You know, an expansion and 3 towers is going to be about 700 gold, and then some units, you know, blah blah blah. So you know, or just a bunch of units, or just you know, more towers or whatever. So you know, 12,000 is a substantial difference in gold. You know, now obviously you need to utilize it well, and then it's going to seem like even more. And if you just sort of waste 12,000 gold, that's a lot of gold to just waste, though. So it's really hard to sort of make a mistake that large. I mean, it can be done, obviously, but you know, three or 4, you know, like 3 or 4 frost worms, and then just losing them for nothing. You know, that would be like wasting it. But anyway, if all other things are equal and I don't make a huge mistake, that could be the difference in winning or losing this game. Something like that. You know, one player being an upkeep, one player not being an upkeep. And if you understand, you know, if you understand sort of the game sense that, okay, this is going to devolve into one of those scenarios where, you know, upkeep could be important. It comes up in free-for-all all the time, as far as I've heard. You know, honestly, I don't play a lot of free-for-all, and I never really did. But you know, it's not hard to imagine that upkeep, you know, 30% for even the first level, and then 60% for the next level. So, you know, high upkeep is really the one you have to you really have to watch out for. But I mean, obviously they're both, you know, they're both 30%, but so arguably similar to jump into the high upkeep as well as, but yeah, you know, the longer you're in upkeep and the longer the other player is in upkeep, the bigger the difference is. And you know, if you've got if you got an expansion and a main base running, you know, that makes it even more. That compounds it. So if I've got 2 bases running at no upkeep and he's got 1 base, or he's got 2 bases running at upkeep, you know, that the percentage is obviously going to be the same. It's still going to be 30%, but you're jumping the maximum, like the gold income. You know, you look at 10,000 gold for these side expansions. So you know, if you mine that whole thing out at no upkeep, you get 10,000. If you mine it out with low upkeep, you're only going to get 7,000. So you know, that's a 3,000. You know, now that's going to take a really long time, obviously. So you know, a lot of times it's not going to go there, and a lot of times nobody's going to be like in at that point in no upkeep the whole time, and you know, a lot of factors. But again, you know, however long you're in no upkeep and they are in low or high upkeep, the bigger the advantage is going to be. So you know, that's sort of the takeaway there. And now it's sort of coming to, okay, who's going to get the Century Rewards? We're both trying to keep an eye on expansions, because the other big thing in this type of a game, in any real game actually, in Warcraft 3, is who can sneak up a towered expansion. Like I was saying, the tower's incredibly efficient, really annoying, and like I was saying, you know, you look 15,000 gold for these top and bottom expansions. You know, these are really the gold mines you would want to go for in this scenario. They have more gold. They're sort of up on a ramp with a choke point, so a little bit easier to defend. And they're about the same distance from the Fountain of Health, and arguably even closer to the shops, to be honest. So pretty much in every aspect, these once they're crept, these are harder to creep, of course, but once they're crept, these are going to be the gold mines that you want to prioritize. Now, sadly, we both make the mistake of going, arguably the mistake of going for the side gold mines first. But anyway, yeah, scouting these gold mines, you know, if towers get up, you don't want to fight, you know, you don't want to be the person fighting against their army and their towers. So, you know, anytime somebody can sneak up some towers at a gold mine and then get the expansion, you know, that it's going to make it, it's just going to prolong the game even more. And like I said, you look at 10,000 gold to get an expansion and a bunch of towers. You know, it's you can spend 1,000 gold and have a pretty strong, you know, expansion there with towers and everything. And then, you know, you subtract that from 10,000, and you know, obviously you have to mine that whole thing out to get there. But you know, it doesn't really take you too long to get 1,000 gold mining out of there. So to repay your expenses, so to speak. And again, that's if you make a bunch of towers. You know, if you make 3 towers and then the expansion, that's not even 1,000. That's like 685 or whatever. So 675. So anyway, that's eventually that's going to pay off and be a big advantage to whoever can have the most gold income. So that this stuff is very straightforward, but again, the timing is everything. If you miss an expansion going up for something like 30-40 seconds, and then you're across the map, well then what are you going to do? If you run all the way over there, the towers are probably going to be finished, and then depending on your army, my army, not really the best at knocking expansions out. A bunch of grunts, they do normal damage, and I've got a bunch of them, but my hero doesn't offer any extra damage like AoE spells or anything like that. I do have the auras, and I do have chemical rage to boost his just regular damage or his attack speed, his DPS, but you see he's got all these air units and stuff like that. So in terms of DPS, right now he is by far in the lead with all these Wind Riders. Now I'm going to get some Bat Riders to sort of counter that. He is going to be 3-1 upgrades, so he is really going hard on the damage. And depending on what hero I've got, and if how many Bat Riders I got in this situation, that could be all he really needs. If he can catch me on open ground with this army, right now he would probably beat me easily. But I'm going to build more Bat Riders, and I'm going to build some Headhunters, I think, as well. Yeah, some Berserkers. So I'm gearing up to counter his army. And again, if we fight near towers, obviously I'll be okay. So we're both actually going to be sort of towering these expansions up at a similar time. I was slightly ahead on the tower building, but he's going to be slightly ahead on the Great Hall. Again, not like any real long amount of time that it's going to decide the game, but he's at about almost 600 hit points done on this Great Hall. I'm at 300 or whatever. So, but the towers are up at mine, and the towers are about to get up at his. So essentially, we're back in this waiting game again. It's like, okay, we both have towered main bases and expansions, at gold source. So now it's like, okay, we're back to this strategic, build up your army, sit here and try to get any kind of advantage that you can. There's no creeps left to creep. So actually there is one camp left. He hasn't crept this green camp, but it's not really going to make. Actually, yeah, I don't think that's going to get him close to 5. Maybe with the bonus experience, it would get. I mean, it's going to get him closer, but anyway, I realize. I think I see here in a second. I'm going to see that he's doing the same thing I'm doing. So I'm like, okay, this is not going to be the game-winning expansion here. We're both in the same boat now. It's like, okay, I was incredibly frustrated still. So I'm like, okay, now I've got an army. He doesn't want to engage me outside of his towers. I would sort of happily engage him on open ground, to be honest, at this point, because I've got Bat Riders, I've got Heal Wards, Master Witch Doctors, I've got Berserkers, 2-2 upgrades on the Headhunters. 0-2 on the grunts. Again, the grunts are really going to be doing nothing against the Wind Riders, so it's not really important that I have attack upgrades on them. He's actually got 2 armor upgrades now on his Wind Riders, but still that leaves him 4 armor. I think level 3 Acid Bomb subtracts 5 armor, so it's going to put them at under 0. It's going to put them at -1 armor. So Bat Riders should be pretty devastating here in this situation. I only have 4. If I had like 6 to 8, it would probably be a cakewalk. It still should be pretty easy for me though, because Berserkers have piercing damage, so they're going to be in good shape against the Wind Riders. The Alchemist, like I said, he can hit air without an orb, so I'm going to pick up a tiny Great Hall. And now my plan is, okay, he's got that towered expansion, I've got this tower expansion, but I'm going to throw up another expansion, and I'm just going to try to bait him into an open field battle. Sadly, looks like he's going to kill this Bat Rider, unfortunately, with his orb. So he's going to take a lot of damage, but he kills the Bat Rider. So that, any little bit, free unit kill there can be useful. But I'm going to bait him into a battle here. I don't suspect that he's going to want to try to get another expansion. And if he does, that's going to leave him vulnerable. So, you know, I'm going to try to bait him once again into a battle. I'm going to throw this expansion up and sort of say, okay, look, if you can stop me from expanding, you know, you can probably, you know, get a huge advantage here, maybe win the game. But I don't think you can. So, and if we fight on open ground with even without the towers finished, which is what's about to happen, I feel confident that I can win the game here on this battle. So that's what the situation is. I need to cast Spirit Link and everything. I don't think I cast Spirit Link on my hero, which is a huge mistake here. Actually, I focus more on getting the Acid Bomb, and I need to use Concoction. Oh man, I didn't use Concoction there. I left the Bat Rider hanging, so didn't do the best there. And I get level 6. I Town Portal just in the nick of time. That could have been really bad news there. So I Town Portal back to my base, but he took, you know, a decent amount of damage there. He's down to 50 food, and but sadly my hero is blocked off here in my base, and I didn't even realize it at first. So I send my army over. I know the towers look like they're going to be able to finish. I want to focus any heal wards I can with a unit or a tower, and I come back in here, and my hero, sadly, I'm gonna have to break him out of these towers, which is like, oh my goodness, you know. So that's a little bit messed up, but I'm gonna drop my own heal ward and use some Spirit Link. And again, if I Spirit Link my hero, that probably he wouldn't have even been nowhere near dying there. So but again, I get the second expansion up. His army's gone. In terms of resources, he's got about 1,200 gold, but rebuilding that army is going to pretty much take all those resources. And I've got the second expansion, so I've got sort of the game-winning, hopefully the game-winning advantage in my pocket, and I've got transmute or whatever, the ultimate, which is going to be able to instantly kill units, really short cooldown, and give me a lot of resources, a lot of gold doing it. So, so yeah, that was. You know, I baited him into the battle, and again, you know, I said this was a mass watchtower game, and again, lots of avoiding each other, which is probably a little bit boring to watch. But again, it showcases, you know, sometimes you have to adapt. If you don't scout, you can get caught in a situation where your strategy just is not viable for what you were planning. You know, I couldn't push his base effectively. So I had to sort of change up my plan and creep the whole, you know, creeping the whole map was really all I could, you know, one of the things I could do at that point, because, or try to create the big camps, because, you know, it's going to deny him those camps. It got me up to level 5, got me, you know, good ore items, got me good items to sell and stuff, got me a lot of resources, and, you know, denied him those things. You know, if we sort of flipped the script, and he, you know, he was level 5 and 6 and 7, and I was level, you know, like 4 to 5. You know, he maybe gets Blade Storm. He maybe can knock my towers out as they're going up. He can do all sorts of stuff. You know, he gets all these items, and the game very easily can go the other direction. You know, so you know, it's the creeps are sort of a subtle. I mean, not exactly all that subtle, but, you know, the sort of total amount of experience from the creeps and the items and the gold is a little bit of a sort of a subtle thing. You know, you get some gold, you get, you know, experience, you know, how is that experience distributed on your heroes, all kinds of factors, but, you know, at the end of the game, you know, it comes down to, okay, did you out-creep your opponent or not? If you did, you know, that's generally an advantage. Did you get, you know, better items from the creeps? You know, bigger creep camps, better items. You know, there's another potential advantage. You know, and then were they still able to creep enough to level their heroes? If they weren't, you know, that's going to sort of make your advantage all the more noticeable and effective. Whereas if you both crept up to level, you know, 3, 4, and maybe even 5, you know, well then it's sort of a draw. It's like, okay, maybe you got the better items, maybe you got a little bit more experience, but your hero levels are essentially the same. So, you know, maybe one player did it quicker, maybe got level 3 faster, he can do some things with like water elementals, or level 2, or, you know, have better, have their level, you know, 2 primary, excuse me, primary skills ready quicker or something like that. Maybe not, but you know, in the sort of the long-term game, if one player creeps, you know, like 70% of the large camps, you know, that, and the other player does the small camps, well, you know, the items can come into play. You know, I had 3 aura items, so, you know, versus, you know, whatever items he got, which weren't, you know, really that great. So there's an advantage. You know, that probably did come out and have a really big impact at, you know, at the end of the game. In the mid game, it didn't really do a whole lot. You know, I was running around faster and whatever, but, you know, we weren't having a lot of battles because of the playstyle that he did and the playstyle that I ended up doing. So, but yeah, you know, so sometimes you need to adapt. Obviously, I should have scouted way better, way faster. That's a problem of delayed scouting. You know, really delayed scouting is you can run into things like that. You know, okay, it's like you realize, okay, I'm going to be severely out-teched most likely for a while. It really messes up your timing windows. You know, delaying your tier 2 as long as I do with that strategy, it makes certain things not really an option because they're going to be too late. You know, I could have, you know, if I would have scouted him early enough, you know, I got to tier 2 sort of at a regular timing, you know, I could have just added demolishers and probably, you know, did a grunt catapult push on his base, grunt demolisher push, you know, and he would have had maybe some, you know, this headhunters, maybe the blade master is annoying, but I probably could have slowly but surely just wiped away the towers, and then, you know, maybe he tries to get some air units out, but he doesn't have a massive air units that I have to worry about, and he doesn't have, you know, you know, some lightning orb or, you know, spirit link or all these things that he can get later, you know, and I don't have to worry as much about countering, like, you know, 5+ wind riders with an alchemist and whatever. So so I could have, you know, it could have been a much shorter game in that respect, because I probably could have just, like I said, did a push with demolishers and grunts and just overwhelmed him. But as it was, I was really late on my tech. So if I still try to do that at a later timing, you know, then he's got, you know, like I said, he started to mass wind riders, and he got, you know, stasis trap and heal wards and stuff. So, and then he had, like, you know, 5 headhunters and everything. So, you know, so then, you know, if I run in there with grunts and catapults or demolishers, and he's got, you know, 4, 5, 6 wind riders with 2 attack upgrades or 1 attack upgrade even, I don't have enough anti-air to deal with that. So, you know, so then I have to go, okay, well, maybe I get a few I go a little bit light on the demolishers, and I get a couple of bat riders. It's like, okay, well then I've got to lower his wind riders away from the towers and try to do all this. I'm going to have fewer demolishers, so maybe his blade master sneaks around and is able to snipe off 1 or 2, slows me down, he gets, you know, this and that and the other. It's just, you know, maybe he makes a couple of demolishers himself, and then it's like we're back to the stalemate. It's like, okay, so that doesn't seem all that appealing of a, you know, back and forth. You know, I'd rather just, you know, fight him on open ground if I can. So, you know, maybe I try to expand. So, sort of the other option in that early game is if I would have expanded soon, early. If I would have scouted him and seen he was doing this tower nonsense, I could have fast expanded, and he couldn't really stop me because he was getting towers, he was getting, you know, headhunters, which were really bad against grunts. So, you know, if I would have realized that at any point, if I would have seen, okay, he's getting a delayed barracks, he's going to be massing all these towers, you know, I just expand, maybe throw a tower or 2 up at it if I need to for anti-air purposes, and I just sit on that expansion and deny him expansions. And then it sort of is just like the very late game came out, except he's going to have a lot fewer options to deal with that. I'm not going to have to watch, you know, 3 other gold mines. If I've got the 1 expansion and the red gold mines haven't been crept, then I've really only got to keep an eye on 1 gold mine. You know, I don't have to scout the whole map. I don't have to counter, like, his whole tech tree potentially. And I don't have to, you know, wait on my tech to finish. You know, if he gets wind riders and I've got towers up and an alchemist, it's like, okay, you know, that should be my advantage fighting near the towers. And then, you know, I just make, you know, I can make headhunters, you know, for a small army of wind riders without many upgrades, without potentially bloodlust, without heal wards, blah blah blah. And without like a level 3-4 4 or 5 Blade Master with items running around, you know, with it doing his nonsense, then it's much less that I have to worry about and have to counter and keep an eye on and all this stuff. You know, the timing sets up a lot better for me there than it did in this game. But the fact that I didn't fast expand, I didn't scout him to sort of realize that the mid-game expansion would not, you know, it was a lot more risky, and I didn't really do it. And I was like, okay, he's probably already got the Wind Riders, which I think he really did. He did it. He was doing an okay job dropping Sentry Wards around. So if he sees that going up, and I don't have the anti-air, he stops that. You know, I lose resources canceling it. I potentially lose a bunch of peons. I potentially lose some grunts trying to, you know, defend it or whatever. You know, and then, you know, maybe gives him some time to get his own expansion up while I'm trying to, like, recover and do this and that. So, you know, I took a conservative approach and made sure, you know, okay, I had the fortified defenses upgrade before I started making any towers and expansion. I had some Bat Riders ready before I did that. I had a level 5 hero. You know, had some Sentry Wards scattered around, so I saw that he hadn't gotten an expansion. You know, and I had Berserkers coming out, so, you know, with some upgrades. So it was a very conservative approach. Could backfire if he gets his own towered expansion up, and then it's like it flips the situation. You know, it's like who can get the towered expansion up first, who can deny the other player the towered expansion, and who can have the correct units at any given point in this sort of timeline here. So, you know, I felt like he had the leg up on the tech, so he was probably, if I tried to expand on open ground, he probably had the better army. I think that was pretty safe to say for, you know, probably 40% of this game from like the mid game on. You know, he had the advantage with the air units that I didn't have the counter to. So, you know, open ground battle, not exactly ideal for me until the very end of the game. So expanding in that respect, you know, if he's scouting it and everything, probably not a great idea. So, you know, that was the thought process, and you know, how I saw the situation. Again, you know, if I tech sort of at a quicker pace, you know, more regular timing, it doesn't come, you know, it's not as bad. I'm not looking at a situation, well, okay, you know, I'm like, you know, 3-4 minutes away from having like a realistic counter to his air units, so I can't do, you know, X, Y, Z. You know, if I take it regular time, it's like, okay, you know, it's going to take me maybe 2 minutes to get some Bat Riders, but once I do, you know, then we can battle on open ground. You know, I'll win easily with Acid Bomb and Bat Riders. Hopefully, you know, I should win easily if he's got Wind Riders. You know, it's only going to take a handful of Bat Riders to really be prepared for that. And then I can expand, you know, at my leisure and that stuff. So, so yeah, you know, it's generally pretty important to tech at a reasonable pace, unless you can do, you know, you can get some kind of early game advantage, and it depends on a lot of different factors. If he doesn't have towers at his main base, when I pressed, you know, at the timing that I did, you know, maybe he's throwing up some bestiaries, maybe his base build's not great, you know, I can knock out maybe the Voodoo Lounge, maybe pressure some burrows, maybe knock out his barracks, something, you know, or I can bait him into a battle, and he's just, you know, he's got like 3 fewer grunts than I do, or something like that. You know, maybe he tries to expand. You know, there's all kinds of different ways, you know, sort of this strategy can play out, and everything. So, but anyway, that's going to be the end of this audio, and this is going to be ScryMind signing out.